Alright, what is going on, everyone? This is Chef Zombie here, and it's been a minute since I've been on this channel, but I'm here today to bring you guys my predictions for week 1 of stage 1 of the 2019 Overwatch season. Basically, I'm just going to go through each game. We got 16 games to go through. I'm going to go through, make like map predictions, overall predictions, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So starting off here, we have a rematch of the Grand Finals, which will be Philadelphia Fusion versus Lens Spitfire. I am doing this kind of last minute, as you can tell. Got 7.5 hours until the games go live. So to start off, we got Ilios. And Ilios for control. And overall, here you have, on the Philadelphia Fusion side, they have a really strong GOATS comp, in which you'll have Fraggy on the Reinhardt. You can put Poco on Diva for sure. Carpe can play Zarya. And then you have EQO can play the Brig. You have Neptuno, who can play the Lucio or the Zen. Alright, there we go. So we got Fraggy on the Reinhardt, you got Poco on Diva, you got Carpe on Zarya, EKO on the Brig, Neptuno on the Lucio, and Boombox on the Zenyatta. Now I feel like the weakest part of this would be Neptuno on the Lucio, mainly because he's played Mercy all this time. And Elk being on a 2-way contract, that puts him at slight disadvantage. And then on the London Spitfire side, for Reinhardt, you have Gesture. You have Fury on the Diva. You got on the Zarya, you're gonna have to go Birdring or Guard, one of them two. On the Brig, I feel like you can trust Prophet. He did play Brig last season. On the Lucio, you got... Okay, on the Zen, you have Bedosin. And on the Lucio, you have Nuss. And so putting these together, like I said, Rialto's going to be heavy GOATs. Elias is going to be heavy GOATs. At least on Ruins. I could see on like Lighthouse or maybe Wells and other kind of comps being ran. Hollywood's going to be heavy GOATs. Again, my writing, I'm using a mouse to draw out words. And I also could see Volskaya being kind of GOATs. So I feel like this is going to be a heavy GOAT set. And we have seen the Philadelphia Fusion on GOATs and their show match versus New York Excelsior, and therefore for that, I feel like they did kind of put up well, but again, London Spitfire have shown that they are like in the right situations, they actually are a very dominant team. So for that case, I think I'm going to give it to the Philadelphia Fusion here. 3, 2, 1. Alright. Coming back here. Just update this. I'm going to go back to black. Alright, coming up next we have New York Excelsior versus Boston Uprising. Sorry. But pretty much for this match, I guess you call this a stage 3 rematch. Wasn't really a thing. That was just a big thing that they had. And it's time to have Nepal. Nepal I don't really look at as being as much GOATs. Just like Route 66 will not be goats. Like, no goats. I don't know. I'm not going to go all the way through. The way how this map plays is going to be no goats. This is not going to have much goats. And just for that reason, you don't need to go into much depth here to know that Boston Uprising is going to be, well, he is going to be on the bench because he is on a suspension, and therefore they're going to probably be running these more not goats comps, and they will be struggling due to the fact that they will only have one DPS player in Blase. Well, New York Excelsior here is on the fact where they have so many good DPS players that you don't know who they're going to play. And I'm just going to straight up do this 4-0 because, actually, let me switch this over to white so that way you can actually see it. And yeah, I think that's pretty said and done there. So go in color here, back to black. Next up, you got Seoul Dynasty versus Los Angeles Gladiators, and this match is one of the more hyped up matches because, as you know, over the offseason, Los Angeles Gladiators lost their main tank in Fissure, and who they had then replaced with Roar from Kongdu Panthera, which is a really good pickup, probably outside of Bumper from Runaways, probably the best pickup they could have made, in my opinion. Starting off, you have Ilios here. Ilios will be probably more weighted towards goats. King's Row, 100% goats. Staple of the meta for goats. Horizon Lunar, I could see no, as well as for Route 66. So I feel like in this case, Los Angeles Gladiators have really good. They have Roar on the Reinhardt. For Diva, they have Bishu / Void. On the Zarya, you can put Surefour or Decay. Either or works. On the Brig, you could put Hydration. I think we have seen, because he is on that flex DPS rule, and I feel like he could pull that off. And then for Lucio and Zarya, and Zenyatta, you have Big Goose and Shaz. Which, that overall right there is a powerful goats comp. Then again, you also have that same sort of synergy over here. On that Reinhardt, you're going to have, it could depend, you could have Marvel, or you could have Fissure. On Diva, you're probably going to want to run Michelle. On Zarya, you're going to want to run Zumba. On Brig, you could run Wakid, because we did see him on that Brig, although he might not have been as strong. I'm sure that throughout the offseason they've probably worked on this, and he probably has improved a bunch. You have Lucio and Zen. On Lucio, we could see Toby, as well as Jexay. And on that Zen, you're going to see Ryu Hong. So for this case, this is their GOATS lineups together. These are both two very powerful GOATS teams. This is going to be a really close game. I feel like in this case, whoever can take if one team can take both Seoul can take both maps of GOATS, like the first half of the game of GOATS from the Gladiators, I feel like this will go to a map 5, because I feel like in the case of non-GOATS, Gladiators are on a huge upside here. Because for DPS lines here, you got Wakid, you got Munchkin, and you also have, I don't know, this is terrible writing, I'm sorry, but you also have Fitz, who we haven't seen him play yet in the league, so we're who knows what role he's going to be supporting here. But overall, I feel like if the Gladiators can take one of the first maps, they will come out, and I'm feeling confident that they will. So overall here, I'm going to give 3-1 to the Los Angeles Gladiators for this match. Switch it back to black. Next up, We get to see our first expansion team play in an official game here. We will get to see the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Starting off in Busan, we haven't seen Busan played in the league, though we have seen it in Contenders, in which in Contenders it was ran quite, for the most part, quite heavily on goats. So I see for the most part this being a goats meta. So this will be goats, that'll be goats. No here. I don't see it played on Horizon just because of how the map is laid out. I think goats here for sure. Hangzhou Spark have a deadly goats comp. And at the same time, you also could have, there is threats within the Shanghai Dragon. I have recently picked up Gamsu, who is a heck of a main tank, just to go with Fearless, who is currently out right now, but will be returning. So for now, they will be running Gamsu. But overall, this match, I feel like, is going to go into the favor of the Hangzhou Spark. Just because of the fact that Gamsu has just now gotten to the team, and that synergy will not be there immediately. He has like hardly practice with the team. He's not going to have that experience. And to have day one match against Hangzhou Spark, who are said to be by far the best expansion team, potentially they could be taking it all, that people have said. But we have, and so for that reason, I am probably going to be, I'm going to go 3-1 here, because outside of it, just the synergy of KDP within this, with like some additions in, I feel like they could nab a map off of Hangzhou, but overall it's going to go Hangzhou 3-1. And that'll do day one for us. Moving on now to day two, we have the Houston Outlaws versus the Toronto Defiant. Houston Outlaws versus Toronto Defiant. We have, first off, for this whole thing, I'm just going to switch to white just because it's black on black. That's weird. Why not make it their secondary colors? Why have them all black? Just saying website. Starting off, you have Nepal, followed by Nambani, Volskaya, Route 66. Route 66, immediate no goats. Nambani, I feel like at certain points it'll be a mix, so I'll do that. Because that's going to be a mix on certain points. Some goats, some non-goats. Volskaya, you could say the same thing, but I feel like it's more favored towards goats. And Nepal is probably going to be a little bit of goats, but for the most part, you're not sure. There's some points like on Sanctum, like the outs, like that's gonna be like non-goats because you have that environmental area in which Orisa is commonly played for teams on that point, and therefore, or is that Shrine? No, I think that is Sanctum. I get the map names mixed up. But overall, Houston Outlaws, in my opinion, have a very strong goats lineup on their hand, in which you have Cool Matt on the Diva, Spree on the Zarya, Mumon obviously on the Reinhardt, and then you'll have Ruckus on the Zen, you'll see Bonnie on the Lucio probably, and then for me, who runs the Brig could be a wild card. You could see Jake or Arhan come out. I feel like Linkser probably is not going to be fitted on that role because he's more of a hit scan DPS. At the same time, you could see Bonnie, Boink, whichever one it's called. I always get his name mixed up. But you could see him come out on the Brig. So overall, I feel like that's kind of a powerful lineup there. Just mainly in the tank line, because Cool Matt was pretty consistent. Mumo's still rumored to be said to be one of the best Western main tanks. Then you have Spree, who is just one heck of a Zarya. On the Toronto Defiant side, though, they do have a decent lineup, but I feel like it's not made for GOAT's meta, is the thing. So honestly, in this case, I'm probably going to go just because it's gonna be kind of mixed. Because outside of goats, the Toronto Defiant 100% are going to be better than the Houston Outlaws, in my opinion, just based on their DPS lineup of the Houston Outlaws. So overall, in that, just because this is going to be a mix matchup, I think I'm not sure what the tiebreaker matchup for map 5 is. What map? Is it Oasis or Lijiang? Overall, if it's Lijiang, I give it to the Houston Outlaws. I can't see my thing. And that's probably spelled wrong. But if it is Oasis, that's way off. I can't see my cursor because it's black in this. I give it 100% to the Toronto Defiant. 3-2. And was that confirmed? I'm not sure if it was confirmed. If it's confirmed, please let me know down in the comments below. But overall, I'm probably. I need to pull this up. I'm pretty sure it's Lijiang. So I'm gonna give one of these. Alright, next up we have the Atlanta Reign versus the Florida Mayhem. In this one, I'm not really going to do much. No goats. Some goats. A little bit of goats here and there, and then that's gonna mainly be goats. For this one, I'm not gonna pull up my draw. I'm not gonna put anything down. Florida Mayhem are in shambles right now. They currently moved S&T to a coaching role rather than player role, which I'm pretty sure they do have Swan for main tank. Their main tank now, like he's the main one. I feel like just the coaching travesty of having well, now that S&T is in coaching role, they'll now have technically a Korean coach, but for the most part, it's pretty much all Western coaches and all Koreans, other than if you want to count Apply and Tavik, who is just there to be the bus driver. But I feel like overall, just in that, I'm just gonna do this and go like this. Pretty simple. Moving on, we have the Dallas Fuel versus San Francisco Shock. Alright, so for the San Francisco Shock versus Dallas Fuel, before we get into this, I would like to apologize. I should have said this at the beginning of the video, but I am currently under a cold. Probably why my voice is sounding weird, why there's so many cuts is from me blowing my nose and everything, and coughing, and also, that's also the reason why this is put off until 7 hours before the league starts, because I was hoping that this would pass over beforehand, before I had to make the video, and it didn't, so I was pushing it back, and now it's to the point to where it's the day of, and I kind of can't push it back anymore, and so here we are. And so, for this matchup, you have Nepal, Kings Row, you guys know goats, that's going to be no goats, that's going to be goats, and for Nepal is a mix. So for Dallas Fuel, this is going to be another close matchup in my opinion. So I'm going to lay out your goats comps, because this honestly kind of helps me a lot even, and just looking at it, and God, that is over there. It's really bad. But okay, Reinhardt over here is going to be OGE on your Reinhardt. Your Diva, you're going to have RCK. On Zarya, the Zarya role is going to be a questionable role for these guys, because I think it might be played by Zachary. We could see that. I don't know why I drew the name on the map. The Brig, you're going to see Mickey. And on Lucio is probably going to be closer. I don't know why I'm drawing names out this time. And on the Zen is going to be Unco. And over here, Reinhardt, you're gonna probably. I think they're gonna be running Smurf. On Diva, you got Choi. On Zarya, we have seen Sinatra on the Zarya a lot, so I'm gonna be going with that. On the Brig, I think we could see Architect. Or we could also see like someone like Rascal. I doubt we'd see Striker on it. And for your Lucio, you're gonna be running Moth because he is your only main support. And on the Zen, you're gonna be running Sleepy because Violet is on a suspension. Yeah, whatever. Okay, that's Sleepy. And overall, just in this matchup, main tank role 100% would give it to OG in the tank line there. The Zarya over here is going to be questionable, while the Zarya over here is very confident. And we saw how good Mickey was last season on the Brig. But over time, I feel like he was quick to catch on to the character. And now I feel like he's going to be kind of lacking in it. Because that closer would be a great upgrade. I feel like support line, it's mainly this flexibility area where the Brig over here, we're not sure who's going to be running it. We never really saw, we didn't see too much of a Brig from San Francisco Shock last season. Wow, Mickey was really dominant on it. So overall, just in the GOATs, which is going to be 1.5 maps, though. Like, overall GOATs, you give it to Dallas Fuel. Even though Zarya seems kind of iffy. Over here, it could be iffy in the Brig role, which is a really key role, but at the same time, we don't know. Also, OG is overpowering Smurf in this case. OG is one of the best main tanks in the league. Smurf, we haven't really seen him prove himself yet. He was on the academy roster of the Houston Outlaws before it collapsed GGEA, in which they got relegated down to trials, and were then basically they gave up. They disbanded the team. Overall, just in this case, it depends. You are going to see GOATs actually quite a bit. I think I'm going to give it 3-2. And I'm going to redraw that 3. Yeah, I'm going to do this for it. Day 2 is going to be full of some really good matchups, in my opinion. Switch my colors. 3-2. And next up, we have the Guangzhou Charge versus Chengdu Hunters. Overall, just for GOATs, I'm gonna make predictions. This is right. Here's a little game. I'm gonna make a prediction 3-1 without looking at the map. And I'm gonna see if I can hold true to it just by looking at the maps. So you got Usan. He's pretty GOATs heavy. Dorado's really GOATs heavy. For the most part, there is sometimes you'll see teams not run it here. Skyo's kind of GOATs good, and also Chengdu. Chengdu, I feel like is, even though people have ranked them low on every power rankings, and I on my personal power rankings, which nobody's really seen, I have them ranked pretty low as well. But in my opinion, I feel like they are an okay team still. But I am gonna have to get. I stand true to that prediction just after looking at the map pool. All right, moving on. Day 3, you have London Spitfire versus Paris Eternal. London Spitfire. Paris Eternal does have a very strong GOATs comp, and I feel like a lot of power rankers are kind of sleeping on that because a lot of these players are coming out of Contenders EU, in which Contenders EU was very GOATs heavy. No matter what the map was, you almost always saw GOATs for the longest time. And even still now, you see a lot of GOATs. And so, just under that circumstances and stuff, I feel like these teams, although I do feel like the London Spitfire is still going to power through this game and come out on top, I feel like Paris Eternal aren't going down without a fight. Unlike what I feel like most people would say. So this is heavy GOATs. This is going to be no GOATs. I think the main thing that's going to give Spitfire here this win is map pool. Because Ilios is going to be quite a bit of GOATs. Kings Row is GOATs. Sky Industry can be GOATs, but it just depends. And then you have Route 66, which is a really bad GOATs map. in which I feel like Paris Eternal there are going to be just shown up really bad by the London Spitfire's flexibility and the fact that they can run more than just goats. So overall, I didn't mark it there. I'm going to mark it over here. I am going to give this a 3-1. You have Washington Justice versus New York Excelsior. Washington Justice is a team I feel they're kind of like the Florida Mayhem of last season. Although they went out and they also did get some Koreans. They didn't just pick up one team, but they did kind of do a budget thing. It's a lot of kind of turn down players like Otto, Guido, Janice, that sort of stuff. In which Janice is still a really good main tank. Otto is a really good flex DPS. Guido is okay on the Zen, but then you also have like a lot of contenders NA Koreans and some English players and some Korean contenders players that were on a really bad team, that being Meta Athena. So for that reason, I'm going to give the 4-0 here to the New York Excelsior. We kind of basically know the map pool here and know that it kind of is going to be it's about 50-50 GOAT. I think the more accurate I've heard is 60-40. Next up here, the Hangzhou Sport versus Los Angeles Valiant. This game, I think, is going to be a really good game. And that being that Valiant, personally, in my opinion, kind of downgraded their team by losing Soon and also getting rid of Finzi and losing their backup off tank, who, though we didn't see him play much, I feel like it's nice to have a backup in every role. But overall, I feel like the Valiant have kind of become a slightly worse team. The fact that Kriv is now going back over to that hit scan DPS role now that Soon is gone, and Izayaki is going to permanently take over the Zen. Overall, I feel like this is going to be a 3-1. Moving on now, we have the Vancouver Titans versus the Shanghai Dragons. Vancouver Titans obviously making up Runaway, while Shanghai Dragons, this is kind of your Contenders Korea Season 2 rematch for the most part, because you have Runaway versus basically Kondu Pantera minus the main tank and hit scan DPS, which I feel like were some of the main roles of a Kondu Pantera team. Of course, if you ask me, if Kondu Pantera won that map 8, Como 100% would be your MVP of that game. He had so many MVP plays as Lucio, and it was just phenomenal. But I feel like Roar and Decay were really big helps to this team, and you're replacing Decay with Ding, and Decay is being replaced by Gamsu, which Gamsu is a really good main tank, but he knows has a synergy with that team like Roar did. And Ding has been on the team for a while, so he would have some synergy. But overall, I think this will go to a map 5, but I think I'm going to go 3-2 Vancouver Titans to Shanghai Dragons. Moving on now, we have the Houston Outlaws versus the Boston Uprising. Again, this team, I feel like I'm going to have to look at the map pool this side. If you're running a Heavy Goats map pool, it's going to be a really close game. And it doesn't really look like that. And so I feel like both of these teams have really good Goats comps right now. Which you have on Boston Uprising, you have Alamao on the Lucio, you got Imgod on the Zen. On the Brig, you're probably going to be running Blase. And then you got Axiom or Fusions, but I feel like in this case you could run either or, because Fusions was promoted to main roster. On Diva, you still have Note and the Zarya, but the Zarya, I'm unsure who you're going to play. But overall, in this case, I should pull this back up. I'm going to give it to like a 3-1 to the Houston Outlaws with Boston Uprising. Next up, you have Philly Fusion versus Atlanta Reign. Philly Fusion, I just feel like have a stronger team. Like, yeah, Atlanta Reign does have like the Fran, and they do have a really strong tank line of Pakpo and Dako. But I feel like the fact that even though the DPS players of Philly Fusion are like strong carries and they can't really do that as much in this kind of meta, I feel like overall they will win 3-1. Next up, you have LA Gladiators versus San Francisco Shock. I personally overall think that the Los Angeles Gladiators are much better than the San Francisco Shock. So that's going to be a simple 3-1. And this is just in my opinion, but Seoul Dynasty versus Dallas Fuel is the match I'm going to be waiting for this week. Both of these teams have made some changes, but are both very powerful. Both like still can prove themselves to be really powerful. Last season, this we thought was going to be the matchup. This was day one, last match of the day, and we were all hyped. This match looked really good, and we thought it looked really good because we thought these are the two best teams. One of these teams is taking it all, one or the other. This is basically 1 seed and 2 seed fighting out. Which one's which, we don't know. But in my opinion, I feel like it was that way because they were both kind of washed up teams. You know, they both were kind of like bad. We realized that Seoul Dynasty placed 8th seed overall and Dallas Fuel 10th. I mean, Dallas Fuel did make a comeback in Stage 4 and were looking really good. But I feel like that was like just so much in their favor. Like, they lost Seagull, which was really good. The fact that he was able to play Diva and also flex onto your flex DPS was really good. It'd be really good in this GOATS meta. Because then, if Dallas Fuel were to have Seagull right now, RCK could go on that Zarya, and then you could put Seagull on the Diva, and it would be a really strong GOATS comp. But with Seagull's retire, you don't really have that anymore. And I feel like this is going to be a repeat of the first time around, in that Seoul Dynasty have a really strong GOATS comp, and I think it's going to be a 3-1. But overall, these are my predictions for Stage 1, Week 1 of the Overwatch League. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, be sure to subscribe. And let me know what you think. You disagree with any of these predictions? I'm sure someone will. Go ahead and leave a comment down below and give yourself a good and explain yourself as to why. And just know that because you like the team is not a good reason. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace.